Well, hello. I was asked to briefly address cravings, what to do when you have cravings, how you can handle them, what you can do to recover from them. I know the lighting is a little off today. It is really, really, really cold here in Colorado and it's kind of dark outside. So I'm not in my kitchen. It was even dark there, but I'm hoping this still works. So, one of the questions I get all the time about having food cravings and how to deal with them is how do you say no to things when you really want them? Do you give in on special occasions? Do you give in when you're just hungry? Does it hurt to give in to a craving every once in a while? There are complicated answers to those questions because when I'm coaching someone, especially if they've been with me for a while, I can tell if they will be able to handle going off plan. For the most part, I tell people not to do it because sometimes when you make a food choice that is giving into a craving or getting some extra sugar or having something that maybe isn't necessarily really great for you, what can happen is that you will end up in a cycle of cravings. You'll just have one thing. And then in my 6-week boot camp where I coach people start to finish on the most methodical way to stay on plan and make it work for you, we talk a lot about how if you give in one time, you're very likely to give in again and again and again. And so that's not something that I want for you. Some people have iron willpower. They can have something one time, get right back on the wagon, and then they're totally okay. If you know yourself well enough to think that you can do that, I say go for it. Absolutely. If you could do it, once every several months, then that may not affect you too much. But for the most part, people will struggle a little bit more to stay on plan long term if they give in to going off plan. So, with that in mind, I do go into in depth how to avoid cheats in that 6-week boot camp that I mentioned. And if you want more information on that, you can go to thewellplannedkitchen.com/THM bootcamp. But if you are just trying to decide if you should stay on plan or not, here are some just quick ideas for you. I would avoid cheating, avoid going off plan. If you are in the initial phase of the THM lifestyle and you are still not used to following diet, I would say maybe avoid some of the places that you know you're most likely to go off plan. And then, like I said, in that boot camp group, we talk through having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, having all of these systems in place to eliminate excuses to help you stay on plan. But one thing that I want to recommend to everybody right now is that if you feel like you are tempted to go off plan, if you're in a situation where you have on plan foods available, but there's also something off plan there that's tempting you, I would say go ahead and have a crossover. So if you're new to the plan, a crossover is a combination of S foods and E foods. It's still completely healthy, complete plan, maybe not as conducive to weight loss as just having the straightforward SE or FP meals, but a crossover is still pretty healthy choice and it's something that's going to help you get over the craving a little bit. So for example, if I go to Outback Steakhouse, and that sounds good right now, doesn't it? If I go to Outback Steakhouse and everyone around me is having the bread and I just really like the bread, and there's a drink there that I rarely drink alcohol, but there is a drink there that I will go crazy for. I really like it. Let's say I go there and everybody's drinking my favorite drink and everybody's eating the bread, and I'm thinking, oh, this is not a hard place to eat low carb. I could have an S meal. I could have, a big salad. They have their I don't remember what the name of the Cobb salad is there, but Cobb salads are my favorite. And they have a really excellent one with hard-boiled egg, which is my favorite part of a Cobb salad. And really just great stuff. Their dressing is fantastic. I could eat low carb and stay on plan. But if everybody around me is eating something that's extra, extra delicious, I might want something a little bit special to help me feel like I'm enjoying the meal like everybody else. So a crossover example would be maybe having a steak and a sweet potato, or even, you can have some other kinds of potatoes on THM, but combining the fats and carbs, we usually separate them to help us lose weight, but combining them for a special treat every great once in a while is absolutely definitely better than going off plan. So I would rather all of my clients have a crossover than just completely go off plan. Another good example would be, let's say you are at a restaurant and you can have maybe a Mexican restaurant where it's a little more challenging. Now, I have an eating out guide available at thewellplannedkitchen.com that tells you what you can eat when you're out and stay on track. But a lot of Mexican restaurants are more challenging, not because there aren't food available, but because there are chips. I have some tricks for that too that I'll share in the future. But if you are at a restaurant and you're tempted by the chips, what if instead of just trying to stick to an S or an E, you go into the Mexican restaurant and you're able to say, okay, I'm not having chips, but I'm going to have a big plate of beans. I'm going to have beans with cheese on them. I'm going to have, some steak. I'm going to have fajitas without the tortilla, but I'm going to go ahead and enjoy the beans on the side. That's a crossover. The beans are an E food. The fajita insides would be an S food, and combining those two together, again, not as conducive for weight loss, but way better than overloading on chips. So if you have food cravings, I highly recommend having a crossover instead of going off plan, or even getting something special that you don't normally have. So if your entire family is going out for ice cream, it's not going to hurt you to run into a grocery store and get a carton of Halo Top or Enlightened ice cream. As a coach, I have to say that with the caveat that those ice creams are technically low carb, but they do have sugar in them. Sometimes I see that clients struggle a little bit with those because that little bit of sugar can just cause future cravings and cause some problems. So it might be good to avoid it if you'd like to. However, if it's going to keep you on plan, that's what those foods are approved for. Go ahead and enjoy. If you are really, really tempted by cravings, or if you've had something and you're struggling to get back on track, I always recommend two things. So the first thing to help you get back on track, and again, this is so brief. This is just answering questions that come in my inbox, but we go really in depth in this stuff in boot camp. But if you're struggling to get back on plan, THM recommends having some deep S meals to help you get back on track. If you're really struggling, my magic bullet for someone who's just really struggling to get back on plan is to only choose recipes from the THM books. So there are a lot of books. So actually my computer is stacked on them right now. So let's see how unprofessional I can get. I'm going to show you really quickly some examples. I just lied. I'm not going to do that. That's too much. But because I'm going to drop the whole thing and everybody's going to, that's not going to work. But let me just tell you, if you go through the THM plan books and you just choose recipes from there for a week or two, that's enough. That will get you back on track. That will help you stay on track. There's something about the brain power behind just choosing from what the plan has laid out specifically that will really help you get back on track and stay motivated. So that was just a brief overview of what I recommend for cravings. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.